For your post-harvest residue digestion and soil maintenance program, Soil Biotics SB 5500 is the answer. It contains beneficial microorganisms that degrade dead plant tissue, converting it to valuable organic matter and reducing disease and insect pressure. Also improve your soil health with Organic 2R Soil Boost. They are currently offering a special 10th anniversary discount program September through November. Call the office at 815-929-1752 or inquire at soilbiotics.com.
All right, this is Jon Bansen giving the report from Smoky, Oregon. It's been a little bit problematic here lately. We have massive fires burning all over the state. A couple of our farmers have been put under evacuation orders now, I do believe. Whether they left their farms or not, that's another story. We are socked in so much smoke that the other day the sun did not rise. We did not see any light. It seemed like it was night until about 10:30 in the morning. And the odd part was, since the smoke is blowing in from the east, it appeared at one point that the sun was rising from the west, because the only light we could see on the horizon at about 9:30 was on the western horizon, where it was glowing red, where there's a gap between the smoke and the sky. So it's been a little bit challenging. It's hard to breathe outside. You wear a mask all the time. The animals are as discombobulated as we are. The chickens just go out and lay down outside and don't do anything pretty much the whole day. The cows, they're grazing still, but they're looking around wondering what the heck's going on. Their production has dropped, and just like us, it's not easy for us to breathe in it. It's not easy for them to breathe in it either. So it's definitely a stressful thing. You start seeing things like smack cell go up and all those other things go up. We've had a couple cows with hoof issues lately. I do believe it's just due to the stress. So it's definitely a little stressful time. We've been dealing with this now for 4 days, and with the horrible smoke, and at least our farm has not been directly affected by the fire so far. We are getting power outages. We're out of power right now, sitting in the dark again, because anytime they have anything that blinks on the lines, they shut all the lines down because they're worried about starting more fires. So, and then they have to hand check every line all the way up and down, every mile of power line in the entire region before they'll turn our power back on. So that's been a little bit of a challenge too. So I can't lie, it's not a lot of fun to be sitting here right now, but weather forecast is saying by maybe Sunday the winds change, and the smoke is blown so far out to sea now. Even when the winds change from the west, it'll take 2 or 3 days for the smoke to pass back over us. It's already passed over us once. So hopefully by next Wednesday, Thursday maybe at the latest, we'll see some sunshine. And it has affected the grass growth. You can tell that pretty rapidly that, there's no sun hitting the ground. It was supposed to be 96 degrees the last 2 days, and it hasn't even gotten to 80 due to the fact that we have no sunshine. So that's pretty much the report I've got from beautiful Smoky, Oregon, and it's kind of the same all the way up and down the coast of Oregon and Washington.
So, John, you mentioned farms being evacuated. What do you do with your animals in a situation like that?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? You got to find someplace to take them. If you can't keep them, the one farmer I know, he just hunkered down and stayed there. He's got green pastures, so more than likely his place wouldn't burn down because he's green all around him. But you have the other issue about, milk trucks not being able to get in and power, not having any power, so you're running off a generator, and you're sitting there, crossing your fingers that embers don't fall on the top of your barn if the fires are too close, if they're burning right in the woods right next to you. So I haven't been actually able to get a hold of the one farmer lately. We made contact with the other one, and he was holding out hope that he was going to be able to just kind of hunker down through it. So it becomes pretty tough. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a natural disaster. Just kind of like a huge flood, only this one's a lot hotter. So that's kind of the long and the short of that.
Yeah. Well, are you really dry this time of year?
Well, every year we're really dry this time of year. Every year, a lot of years we get what I call the state fair rain that happens right at the last day or two of August or the first day of September. But, we usually go through a 12-week period where it's pretty dry. This year's been exceptionally dry. In the 12-week period, we've had less than 1/10 of an inch of rain in 12 weeks. So it's been much more dry than we have been. We were wetter going, into June. So June was a little wetter, which meant it built up a little more grass everywhere, because the grass growth was phenomenal in through June. And then the grass growth stops, and since we're always in a summer dry, all that grass dries up. Well, do the math. If there's extra grass growth and it all dries up, and then a spark hits, and the horrible part was we went into an eastern weather wind pattern that we usually don't get here, and it was super dry east winds, and it started blowing trees down on top of power lines, and the power lines ignited, and then it just went to the races. In fact, one fire ran 17 miles in one night. That's how far it went. It just was not stoppable. And the fire crew, it's spooky. It really is spooky.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures of it's just red. I can't even imagine what you guys are going through. But are you expecting any rain in the forecast?
They are saying we might get 1/10 of an inch of rain on Monday night, possibly.
But that wouldn't be enough to really do anything with the fires?
Oh, it won't. It won't put the fire. No, it won't do anything. 1/10 of an inch won't touch a fire. But the fact that the one hope we have is these winds change from the east to the west, and when that does, these fires have blown rapidly from the east to the west in that wind pattern we had. And if you reverse the winds and they head back to the east, well, then the fire's going to try and blow right back into what it already burnt. And hopefully that basically helps burn some of those fires out before they go anywhere else.
Because you usually would not be getting easterly winds, would you?
No, it's a rarity, but it happens. The eastern winds come when you get a real big heat up in the atmosphere here. If you get one of these heat patterns, the real hot days, that's usually because the wind shifts from the east and the winds come over the Cascades and they compress as they go down, which heats up the air even more. And that's usually our hot weather patterns. Usually those are July weather patterns when things aren't so darn dry yet. But it happened to happen in September, which is odd. And that's what really the problem was. So a extra wet June, extra dry July, August, and into September, and then those compressed hot winds, and it was blowing 60 miles an hour winds in a lot of places. So you spark a fire and have 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing onto hot, dry stuff, and bad things happen.
My heart goes out to you guys, and I really hope you stay safe and come out of it, because what is going to happen to the animals long term? Will they have lung damage from it, or is it not that severe?
Well, I don't think it's going to be lung damage. If you have an animal that's already stressed that, maybe had some issue with the calf or something and already has limited lung capacity, they will suffer a bit. The other thing is we saw, so I've been living here for 58 years almost 58. And the only time we've ever seen smoke come in to the valleys here has been in the last 4 years. So it's definitely we're seeing a shift in and it's not climate change now, it's climate crisis. It really is. That's what I think you could probably take it to climate crisis when you get this kind of apocalyptic kind of events year after year after year. So it's definitely been a change. It's been, the last 4 years we've seen some of this. The last time it was really bad, but the fires weren't climbing into Western Oregon as bad. We were just getting all the smoke from the Eastern Oregon fires. Was 2 years ago where we're socked in for a big portion of the summertime with smoke, and production suffered. The grass suffers. The grass can't breathe very well either, and the cows can't breathe very well. And you see the production go down for a big portion. It really doesn't come back up till springtime because you get these animals that are kind of on a downward trend, and they don't just spring right back as soon as the smoke goes away. So, it definitely has an effect. There's so much soot that yesterday when I was setting fences for the cows, my shoes were I unlaced my shoes and just tons of ash was falling out of my shoes. My socks and everything were just black. The barn, wherever there's a cobweb, I drove up to the milking parlor and thought it looked like somebody was shooting holes in my milking parlor, but it was all the cobwebs had gotten filled up with ash. So the cobwebs you don't usually see, you can see everything because they were all filled with ash.
Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe you're getting some soil nutrients if you're desperate for a positive spin on it.
If you need some potassium, I think it's happening right now. Now, if it could just rain some phosphorus for me, I'd be much more.
There you go. So
that's what I need.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Jon, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, hey, it was nice talking.
This is Thomas Heckman from West Central Ohio, doing a September 12th update for Ohio here. The weather in the past couple weeks, we got about an inch of rain or something there after the last call, and it's been pretty much dry the whole time, warm, hot, until this Monday night. We had a storm come through, and I had 3.5 inches at the home farm here. My dad had 4, and some other farms might have had 6 inches. Rain gauges were overflowing, so kind of crazy. Come right in there and really dumped her. Cooler nights, so that's nice. Gets down to 60s and 50s sometimes, so that's been nicer. Foggy last couple mornings here. So for field work, we had a nice stand of clover under the triticale we combined, 38 acres. We made that. We cut that and baled and wrapped it. 38 acres, 168 bales. Did real good. Should be real nice quality. Looked real nice. We had our oats where we combined our oats. Supposed to have clover under that, and Dad cut that down, and we baled and wrapped that. It was some clover and some grass, some weeds. So I made 120 bales. So heifer feed, nothing special, but I'll take anything on the hay side this year we can get. A lot of guys were chopping corn around here. A lot of guys are done. You're doing snappage. How much the corn's not far off. We started chopping. Well, I wanted to start chopping Tuesday. We got that rain. We were dry enough. We were able to start Wednesday afternoon. We opened the field up. We got our own chopping equipment. So we started chopping Wednesday afternoon. We all want to chop 25 acres off and farm here at home. I wanted 600 ton, 210 by 200 bags. So we started chopping. I got both them bags full. We finished up Friday, and I still got about 8 loads out in the field. So we got, we're waiting on a 9-foot bagger to show up, do a small bag, finish that up. That corn's the best corn I ever raised. Did 195.5 bushel an acre. It might get close to 26, 27 ton an acre, depends on what finishes out here, what we got to chop. So I'm real proud, really happy. It was really clean. Just some morning glory in it in spots, bringing some of the corn down. So kind of the reason we chopped it, because that can be a bear later to shell. We looked at our other corn. It looks really good too. I don't know if it'll do quite as good. One field might. The other one I know was a lot drier. The ears are a little smaller, but overall, fields are clean. So a really good year for us for corn. So real happy. We did, for the cows, we're grazing 5th time over. It's not a crazy lot of pasture out there right now. It's been dry. We're feeding a lot to bunk. Hoping maybe this rain we got will give us some something to graze here for the rest of the year. 3.8 fat and 3 protein, running about the same, 55 pounds of milk. Above quota a little bit now. I've been having a lot of fresh cows, been calving a lot of cows and a lot of heifers coming in. We're going to have to, I have more, my quota goes up through the winter, so I'm going to have to start pushing cows a little harder, get more milk out of them so they peak better going into the winter. Otherwise I'm going to lose that milk. Yeah. And all cell counts coming down somewhere around 150 now. We was kind of fighting that a little bit there with the heat. Always do every year. But overall doing well with that. All the fresh cows doing pretty good. A lot more bull calves than I wanted though. So it seemed like I got a higher percentage of bull calves this fall. And overall, I mean, the crops look good. A lot of chopping's done around here. Beans are week 2 week out. Guys are going to start snappage or high moisture corn. So I don't know anything about bean yields. I know corn, conventional guys are saying anywhere from 160 to 200. So for the year we had, the dryness and stuff, that's pretty good. So I want to give a shout out to my 2 biggest fans, Greg and Matt. So thanks for listening.
I like that, Thomas. On your corn silage, it's good to hear that you had a great corn year like that. Are you going in with a cover crop as soon as you're done with the chopping?
Yeah, the plan is we're going to put liquid manure on it, and then I'm going to put Triticale out there. We'll work it up and put Triticale out there. I wanted to just hit it with a bit light disc and level it off, but now since we chopped and it was wetter and it's a plowed field, we left some wagon tracks in it, so we're going to have to work it up. Probably take disc ripper in there and tear it up and work it down. I didn't like doing that, but that corn needed chopped, so we couldn't wait. It was going to get dry up too much. So yeah, so I always try to put, after we chop corn, I try to go to something like whole manure and go to Triticale, so that I got something in that field, and then either put clover under it, or I might try some forage sorghum again after Trit. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. So you normally put a seeding in with your Triticale and then combine that the following year?
Yeah, well, I'll put clover on in the spring. So Triticale, I'll either combine it or chop it. Depends. If I chop it, then I'll go to like a forage sorghum, a whole manure, and go to a forage sorghum. If I plan on combining it, I'll spread clover early spring, and then I'll just combine and take the straw, and then have a nice clover field. I like doing the clover because then it gives me something for a good plow down for corn the next year. Nitrogen credits, and really corn does well after red clover.
Mm-hmm. So overall, the year this far has been really good for you as far as moisture and weather-wise? It's
been drier, but in organics, it seems like a drier year. We've been able to catch some rains, and it's easier to keep your fields clean, your weed pressure's less, and Dad has an old saying: if you plow in the spring and you get an inch of rain on that, if you get an inch of rain and you get that plowed ground soaked through, you'll have enough moisture for the rest of the year. And that sounds crazy, but it seems like it holds true. And we plowed everything, and we got 2 inches of rain on it this spring. And the one cornfield that we didn't plow, was a little drier, and that one seems like it had more stress on it. But it was drier there too.
That's interesting. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, I don't know, some old neighbor used to say that, and that's my dad's theory now. But it seems to work. But if you don't get a ring on that plowed ground in the spring, then you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it goes both ways.
Yep. Well, I know you're still going to be chopping corn today, so I don't want to take more of your time. But really appreciate the update, and it's great to hear that you're having a great crop year.
Yep, thanks, Mike.
Yep, thank you.
I'm John. I'm in Lancaster, Wisconsin, on regional update. So since the last time we talked, I finished up all my third crop, put up about 130 acres of new seeding, got 95% of that dry, which is pretty unlikely for us. Anything after second crop is really hard to get dry normally, but we got all our second all up. Corn silage is getting real close. About 2 weeks ago, we tested it with about 78%, so it's right about time to, it's all go stage, and it's about time to go, but it's been raining for almost a week and a half, pretty much every day or every other day, just enough to keep you out of the fields. I think the first week of September we've had a little over 3.5 inches of rain, compared to all of August we had about 1.5 inches. So as far as moisture goes, we're actually pretty good. We were dry in August, but it was nice. Got up some good feed. Corn, all, like I said, looks good. I got about probably 35 to 40 acres we'll chop, and rest will harvest out of the 135 acres I planted this year. So we'll have about 100 to combine. And I haven't done any yield checks, but I'm guessing it'll run about 130 to 150 tons per acre. Time will tell, but I think right around that 18 to 20 is what I'm hoping for this year. It's pretty tall, and we went with 30-inch rows, so that's kind of what I'm hoping for. So hopefully we only have to do like 25 acres, but I'm planning on 35. Cows are milking pretty good. Pastures are, after we started getting rain, really started coming back on strong again. So the grazing's been picking up for the last week and a half where it's been mud, but we're milking about 48 pounds right now, 45 to 48 pounds a cow. Smack cell, because all this rain is starting to jump a little bit. Fly pressure is starting to go down. Planted a bunch of horse and paddocks up that we put sorghum sedan in. We did that week just before all this rain, so that's all coming up good with good pasture mix and alfalfa, and winter wheat is what we use for cover crop. So I'm actually hoping we can graze that once it freezes.
So, John, do you do your own chopping, or do you get it done custom?
We have been custom the last few years because of all this rain. My custom guy is way backed up, so we might have to take the dust off of our chopper and pull it out. But I'm kind of hoping I can find another custom guy that'll come in.
Mm-hmm. And do you bag it or silos?
So we do all three actually. We got a 50 by 50 pit. We usually take about 7 foot tall. We have a divider down the middle of it, so it's actually two 25-footers. We'll fill that, and then we'll do like a 150-foot bag, and then we'll fill a 14 by 40 silo.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how many ton would that be?
Oh, we were just figuring that up the other day. About 650 ton, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And when we do it, it almost takes us a full week to get all that done, and they can come in about 6-7 hours and be done.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, how many machines and trucks?
Usually they come in with 3 to 4, depending on where we're chopping at. So this year, the farms are a little bit closer. So we'll probably be able to keep up with 3, unless we do 2 things at once. Like if we do the pit, silo, and the bag, we could do that all at once, and then they'd probably bring 4 or 5. But 3 is a nice steady pace, and we can get the pit done, and then we'll fill the bag and silo probably the same day.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the same time. So,
I see.
and it, well, I said 6 hours, but that's 6 hours of chopping. I mean, it might
Right.
take us all day, but by the time you switch from one to the other and cover one and get a bag set up and all that, it's usually a day job. But I only get charged for 6 hours usually.
Is that, and most guys base their price on header hour, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
As far as the chopper goes, the chopper will, that's header hours. Trucks are when they show up to when they leave.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Or like the one guy, he actually got rid of all of his trucks, went to tractor and carts, and that's just by the hour when they show up until they leave.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But man, that's getting it done in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah, the hardest part is packing it. You got to make sure you pack it before you let them dump again. And they don't. These guys are really good. There's been a couple of guys that I've hired that they want to dump and go, and usually don't get the pack in. And so after the first year of that, and realizing I didn't get a good pack, now I don't care how long they wait, and I don't care how mad they get. When I'm done packing is when they get dumped.
What do you use to pack it?
I got a 4-wheel drive John Deere that we put a bunch of weights on and use that. And then we use our loader tractor to level it. And so we're kind of packing with that too, but it's just a 120 horse tractor that we got about a ton of weight on and just go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But it has good silage or good value at the end. We always put what they call an oxygen barrier down when we cover it. We'll put just a clear piece of plastic down first. Then we fold the wall plastic in, and then we put one big black and white plastic over the top, over everything. And I bet if I throw out maybe a quarter of a manure spreader a year, I'm lucky.
Really?
Yeah, it might be only 2 or 3 skid loader buckets full. I mean, we're right down to very, very minimal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's a long ways from what I used to do. We used to just fill it, and then we'd sprinkle oats really thick across the top, and that would sprout and get a big old root mass built in, and that's all we would do.
Did you have a lot of spoilage then?
Not really, actually. It was basically the root mass plus a couple inches. So I'd have, I don't know, about 6 inches of stuff to throw off the whole top, which, I didn't think was terrible, but when you can go from, I don't know, it's probably a whole manure spreader load or maybe 2 when we used to do that, to only doing a couple skid loader buckets, and it's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So overall, as you're heading into fall, things are going pretty good weather-wise?
Yeah, I think so. As long as we get a couple of weeks right after this, if we can get a couple of weeks of nice dry weather to, get the corn, because right now it's cool enough. The corn's not drying down very good either, for harvesting. But it would be really nice for 2 or 3 dry weeks that the temperature comes up and kind of finalize your cobs and kernels would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as everything else, feed-wise, we're sitting pretty good. We have about 25 or 30 acres of new seeding that I might take off, but I might have to wait till killing frost before I do that.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Thank you for taking the time. I know this is a crazy busy time of year, so I really appreciate you taking the time to give us this update.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. It's still summertime in the South, but we've moved into September now, and although we're enjoying kind of a warmer day in the mid-80s today and sunshine, we have had some cooler temperatures at night and in the mornings. Felt nice. Cows feel a little, I think they're enjoying it more as much as I am. We're right in the middle of harvest. We're cutting silage as hard as we can go. As I was telling Mike a second ago, I think we've become better mechanics than we have anything this year. It seems like we cut a half a day and work on the equipment half a day. But anyway, got our early corn cut. That was the no-till corn that we tried. It did really well. I think we ended up about 15 tons an acre, which you Midwestern folks sounds pretty bad, but down here we're pretty happy with it. And down in this part of the world, county average is usually around 19 tons on conventional corn, so we didn't miss that by much. Had a good ear on it. We were very happy with that. Looks good. We've been cutting mainly our sorghum and cowpeas this week, and they have turned off tremendously well. Got a huge crop of that. It looks really, really good. I'm amazed at how big the cowpeas got. They kind of ran up the stalks, and we kind of pulled some out and straightened them out, and it's 11, 12 feet tall. And I think it'll be good feed. The sorghum's really nice, and we're in our late corn today cutting, and it's going to turn off a little better than the no-till, but I think it'll make 20 tons. Has a really good ear on it, but it did have maybe a little more rain than the early corn. But so we're going to get done and kind of throw some numbers together and see what comparative notes on the no-till versus the tillage corn. Grazing we're still in our summer annuals, but they're starting to fade just a little bit. We're getting ready to start throwing ryegrass and oats and all that kind of stuff, getting ready for our annuals. And if we're lucky, get plenty of moisture this fall, we should be able to graze some of those later this fall, and hopefully, if we're lucky, some this winter. But it's time to start thinking about getting all that stuff in the ground. So we're just kind of a reflection of the rest of the country right now, just busy in the field, a lot of, getting stuff in, getting the new crop out, and we'll be, next 6 weeks will be pretty busy. But we're pretty satisfied where we are, and it looks like we'll have plenty of feed to get through the winter. We've had a good rain down here in this part of the world this summer, and we'll have a best feed inventory we've had in 4 or 5 years. So pretty positive things to say from down here in the southeast.
Hey, Sam, how many tons of corn silage or silage total do you put up?
We'll get total silage. We'll get about 1 million tons. I'm not sure what the breakdown on that this year is going to be on corn and sorghum. Probably about 400 tons of corn and about 600 tons of sorghum and peas.
So 1,000 tons.
We were usually
1,000 tons.
Yeah, 1,000 tons.
You said
sorry,
1 million.
Yeah, 1,000 tons.
Wow, Sam,
yeah.
You're getting serious here.
Yeah, no, we got neighbors that do 1 million tons. We're 1,000 tons. Yeah. We're probably 400 tons of corn this year, about 600 sorghum probably. And it was supposed to have been reversed, but we lost about 25 acres of corn to not army worms, but cutworms.
Okay.
And we just cropped beautiful stand, came up good. And it looked like somebody was coming on with a knife and just slicing them off with
No way.
We'd never had them before, and so we ended up tilling it up. We had total loss in about 25 acres, and the field we're in today had some damage, but not too bad. But we worked that ground up and just planted it back in sorghum and cowpeas, and it did fine. They don't mess with the sorghum, but they'll get the corn. It's strange, and they'll get pigweed too, which
Yeah.
I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm. On your no-till corn, did you roll down rye, or what did you do to no-till?
We rolled down crimson clover and oats. But next year we're going to go with rye and vetch and crimson clover. The oats, and they probably weren't mature enough when we rolled them, and they came back and really competed with that corn for the first month. And I think that crop would have done a lot better if we had like rye, something that matures quicker, longer stem, that I think when you roll down has less chance of coming back, standing back up. And those oats stood back up, a lot of it did. And that's what kind of knocked that crop back a little bit. The clover rolled down really nice. How the neighbors did the same things. If they had vetch, and that vetch rolled down really nice, hairy vetch. And so this year on our cover crops, we're going to do more rye and vetch. We're still going to put a little crimson clover in and see if we can't get a better roll down and less competition on the corn the first month it's up.
Mm-hmm. So the oats just wasn't mature enough that it didn't really crimp the stalk when it was rolled down?
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when your silage is coming off now, are you going in already with the cover crops, or do you wait a little bit yet?
When time we get done, we'll get started on it pretty quick. Down here in this part of the world, you know, you'd like to have your cover crops in by the end of October, ideally 1st of November, but you can plant wheat till Thanksgiving, 1st of December down here, depending on the season, but usually that's the case. And, I mean, we've planted cover crops, and we've gone all the way into, you know, late November, early December, and they usually do well. Every year's different, but, I mean, used to, the old saying was that you wanted all your crops in by the 10th of October, or, you know, you wanted your, that was the first big frost, and you wanted to kind of have all your stuff planted by the end, but that keeps getting moved back, and now, like wheat, we say as long as we got it planted by Thanksgiving, we're fine, but the thing you got to be careful with down here is like ryegrass. Those annual grasses, orchard grass, any of that stuff, if you plant it too early here, the heat, if you get it hot and dry, it'll usually kill a new stand. It'll usually come up nice, but you start getting some 90, 95 degree days when that ryegrass is small and maybe it gets a little dry, it'll just die. And we've made that mistake. We used to always we wanted to get as much fall grazing as we could, so we like to this is when we were conventional. A lot of times we'd have our corn cut by the end of August, and as soon as we got out of the corn, we'd roll right into like planting our winter annuals, and so we could hopefully start grazing about mid-October. But we just got caught several times where we'd get a really nice stand, but then it'd turn hot and dry in late September, and it'd all die, 100%. And so now a lot of our ryegrass, we won't start planting about the 1st of October. But we'll go ahead and get a jump on some of the cover crops. Oats, if you're going to plant any oats, stuff like that, you can start on that pretty quick.
And you wouldn't get any winter kill on your oats?
Sometimes you do. We didn't last year, but see, last year, I don't think we got below, I think the lowest temperature I saw was about 19 degrees, 18 degrees. We never got below 15 last winter. 2 winters ago, we had 8 straight days that never got above freezing, and the lows was probably about 8 to 12 degrees for about 8 days straight. And we definitely had some winter kill on some oats then. That same week, I called Kevin Mahalko up there in Gilman, Wisconsin, or wherever he is, and I told Kevin about how cold it was, and he said he hadn't seen it above 0 in 2 weeks, so I shut up. But but it was so mild, and I mean, we started grazing January 1st, oats and triticale, and we never stopped. I mean, after we had our cold weather in December, I think our lowest temperature was probably middle of December, or like the 20th of December. And once we hit January, you know, it was in the 60s, lows in the, you know, upper 30s, low 40s. We did have a few spells that probably got down in the upper 20s at night and, you know, the 40s during the day, but we had very little cold weather, and that stuff lasted, you know, we grazed it up until mid-April, and the ryegrass usually lasts about mid-May unless you plant like an Italian ryegrass, and they'll go into June. But we had an unusually good winter as far as grazing goes last year. 2 years ago was kind of the opposite. You know, we didn't really start grazing until about mid-March, late March, which we usually have a target of March 1st. And then last year, like I said, we started in January.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know what you're going to get. It's been dry here the last 2 weeks, which we desperately needed because our crops are ready to harvest, and so we've been trying to, you know, get our work done in the field. But it's hot, and you know, we'll see. I mean, last year it was really dry part of the fall, and then it kind of was wet late in the fall, and who knows, it's supposed to rain the last 3 days, and we haven't seen hardly any clouds. So I don't know if that means we're getting ready to turn dry for a few weeks or not, but we got plenty of work to do, hay to make, that kind of stuff. So no matter if it's wet or dry, we've got plenty to keep us busy. That's for sure.
Yep, sounds good. Hey, Sam, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I know this time of year it's hard to get you guys in a corner for 15 minutes, but I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. I was sitting down here at the silo, and I hadn't had a truck come the whole time we've been talking, so that's not a good sign. I might be going back to the shop.
All right, have a good one, Sam.
Thank you, Mike.